Do Muslims and Christians worship the same God? Well, before we can answer that question, we really have to discuss and answer some other questions, like how much correct information do people have to have about God before they're worshiping the true God? And do people have to understand God's plan of salvation in Jesus Christ to truly worship Him? Does God have relationship with people who don't have all the correct information about Him? So these are the topics we're going to discuss in this video, and I've actually written a book on this subject. It comes out November 17th. Look for it on Amazon. It's called Bridges of Love and Understanding: How to Bring the Message of Jesus to Muslims and everyone else too. And that's really what this video is about. It's about helping people bring the good news of Jesus Christ to the world. And that's really starts with understanding other people's perspectives. And when it comes to Muslims, we're talking about a large percentage of the world's population. There's nearly 2 billion Muslims in the world. So it's very important that Christians understand Muslims. Now let's start with the question, is God in relationship with people who don't have all the correct information about Him? Think about your own spiritual journey. Did you have all the correct information about God when you started connecting with Him? You know, all of us are on a spiritual journey, and all of us are learning more about God as we go along. I think it's safe to say that none of us had all the correct information about God when we started in relationship with Him. And none of us have all the correct information about God now, right? We don't have a perfect knowledge of who God is. Christians argue about hundreds of things, and we can't all be right about everything. So I think it's safe to say that all of us have some wrong information about God. But having wrong information about Him hasn't stopped God from being in relationship with us. God relates to human beings who have imperfect knowledge of Him and who have wrong information about Him. If He waited until we got all the correct information about Him, then He wouldn't have a relationship with any human being, right? So people can be in relationship with God while having some wrong information about Him. Now, do people have to have perfect knowledge of God's salvation through Jesus Christ in order to be in relationship with Him or to be truly worshiping Him? Well, I want you to think about all the people in the Bible who lived before Jesus Christ came and died on the cross for sins and was resurrected. You know, all of those people from Adam and Eve to Noah, Moses, Abraham, all the people of faith from the Old Testament, all the prophets, you know, they all had imperfect knowledge of God's future plan to save the world. Some of them had more information than others. Some of them, like Isaiah, prophesied about this suffering servant who would come and, you know, die for sins. So some of them had a lot of information about God's coming plan of salvation, but none of them knew Jesus Christ coming in the flesh and dying on the cross for sins. So God was relating and in relationship with people who didn't have the knowledge of His plan of salvation. And now some people might say, yeah, but that was before Jesus Christ came. But now that Jesus Christ has come, they definitely need to have faith in Jesus Christ in order to be in relationship with God. Well, in the Bible, that just isn't true. And I'm going to give you one example from the book of Acts. There's a man named Cornelius, and this is after Jesus Christ died on the cross, was resurrected, and ascended into heaven. So there were people who had faith in Jesus at that time, but the book of Acts says Cornelius was a man devoted to God, God-fearing, and prayed to God regularly, and God answered his prayers. God was in relationship with Cornelius. Well, Cornelius wasn't Jewish, so he wasn't in the right religion. He didn't have the knowledge about Jesus Christ dying on the cross for sins, but he was in relationship with God. And because he was in relationship with God, God sent Peter to tell Cornelius the good news about Jesus Christ. So Cornelius knew God before he knew the plan of salvation in Jesus Christ. And I think it is that way for many Muslims. Now, let's talk for a minute about, well, are they worshiping the same God? And how much correct information does someone have to have about God for us to say that they're worshiping the true God? And the Bible gives us some ways of thinking about this. In the book of Psalms, it says that the heavens declare the glory of God. Day and night they pour forth their speech. The book of Romans says that the divine attributes, that God's nature is clearly seen through what God has made, so that no one has an excuse for not believing in the Creator, right? So what the Bible tells us is that no, you don't have to read the Bible to know that there is a Creator who made all things. And it also tells us that God answers those who call to him, that, those who seek God will find him. And there are many people in the world who've never read the Bible, and yet they're looking around at the world and they're saying, yeah, I can tell that there is a Creator and I want to know this Creator. And God is responding and relating to those people. And maybe he's going to use you to bring the message, the good news of Jesus Christ to them. And so when we're talking about Muslims, we're talking about people who recognize that there is a Creator of all things and who are seeking to know and worship the true Creator. Now, they may have some wrong information about him, and they do have wrong information about Jesus Christ. But as we talked about, people can have some wrong information about God, but still be truly seeking and knowing and be in relationship with the true God. Now, I have 9 years experience living in Muslim majority countries and talking with Muslims regularly about their faith. And one of the main reasons I wrote this book is because I so desperately want Christians to know about the beautiful faith of my Muslim friends, to honor and respect their faith, and to recognize the contribution their faith makes to the world. Now, do they have a perfect knowledge of God's plan of salvation in Jesus Christ? No. And that's why it's your job to bring them the good news about Jesus. And you can better do that if you don't dismiss their faith and say, oh, they worship a false god because their religion teaches them this and this and this. If you think that way, you're going to be missing out on being able to bring the good news of Jesus Christ to people who are already in relationship with God, many of them. Okay, so I can't speak in general terms and say all Muslims are worshiping the true God. I don't know anyone's heart, and neither do you. But I do know that the Bible says that all who seek God will find him. And I believe that many of our Muslim friends are like Cornelius. They are devoted and God-fearing people. And all they need is someone like Peter or someone like you to come and bring the good news about Jesus Christ to them. If you want to read more about my experiences and bringing the good news of Jesus Christ to my Muslim friends, then please do read my book coming out on November 17th. Look for it. And I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. What has been your experience with this topic or learning about Muslims, and what do you think about this video? And if you're a Muslim, then what has been your experience with Christians? Do you believe Christians are worshiping the same God that you're worshiping? So if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more on this topic and on other topics related to the Christian faith. God bless you, and thank you. His own self for heavenly food.